plantation forests of New Zealand are a vast and entirely renewable resource. Managing a significant proportion of this major export industry is Pacific Forest Products, who are pleased to present this brief overview of the busy world behind their log export business. Forest operations. Radiata pine trees begin life here in the nursery, where they're grown from seed and specially conditioned for transplanting in the forest. Seedlings are planted by hand during the winter months. One worker will plant 1,500 seedlings per day. Trees are pruned to produce clear wood for appearance-grade timber or veneer. Approximately 60% of New Zealand radiata pine plantations are pruned. Pruning takes place in 2 to 3 stages, and the first prune is usually when the tree is 5 years old. Final pruning takes place after thinning, usually up to a height of 6 metres. Trees are thinned to waste from their initial stocking to final crop stocking at about age 10. This reduces competition for light. Nutrients and water allows trees to grow larger and more valuable. Once trees reach an age of around 30 years, trees are clear fell harvested. Trees are either felled mechanically or manually. Mechanical felling takes a lot of the danger out of harvesting, but can only be used on flat ground. On steeper slopes, it's chainsaws only. The felled trees, or stems, are hauled either to a skid site or a processing plant to be cut into logs. On steep country, a hauler uses wire ropes to drag the stems up the steep slopes to the landing for processing. On flatter ground, a skidder moves around the harvest area, bunching up logs and drags them to the landing. A good hauler crew can produce 300 tonnes of logs per day, while a ground-based crew can do 200 tonnes of logs per day. In the forest, logs are processed manually by trained staff or by machine using a cutting head. Logs are cut to a plan to meet sale orders and to maximise the return from each tree. In Kaingaroa Timberlands estate, full stems are hauled to a processing plant located in the forest. Stems are debarked, scanned for defects and knot size, and then cut into logs. The processing plant operates 24 hours per day, 7 days per week, and is unique in New Zealand. It allows better optimisation of each stem, more control of cut plans. It also reduces labour, improves safety, and centralises logistics. Logs are loaded on the skid site to be transported on highway from the forest to the port. Up to 28 tonnes can be carried on each load. Off-highway trucks carrying loads of up to 40 tonnes are used to transport logs from the processing plant to the railhead. 4 trains per day are loaded and depart from the railhead to the port. Each train moves around 1,000 tonnes of logs per journey. Port operations. Trucks arrive loaded with logs from the forest and enter the checkpoint to be scaled to the Japanese Agricultural Standard Cubic Metric, or JAS, as commonly used by the Independent Log Marshalling Company. These companies are audited monthly to ensure compliance with the JAS standard. Each log is given a bar-coded ticket which will hold all the information about the log, and it will stay with the log until it reaches the customer. The small end diameters of the logs are measured and, along with the length, are used to calculate the JAS volume of each log. The volume, along with the grade, length, supplier, forest and fell date, are recorded in an electronic database. Each log can now be tracked at any time from the forest to the customer using the log's ticket number or barcode. In a normal day, about 100 trucks per day pass through the checkpoint. Added to this would be 4 trains, giving a total of nearly 7,000 jazz per day of PFP logs going to the Port of Tauranga alone. Logs that arrive on trains have already been scaled and ticketed at the railhead in the forest and can be unloaded as soon as they arrive. PFP have the best logistics equation with high-frequency shipping and stock turnover, which means that our average inventory age is lower than the New Zealand average. This equals fresher wood to the customers. Once each load has been scaled, the trucks are sent out into the yard for unloading. All logs are stored in rows of the same grade and length. High stacking of rows is used to maximise storage capacity in the yard. At any one time, PFP could have up to 80,000 jazz stored on the Port of Tauranga. Daily manual log checks ensure that the logs are in the correct row and that all recorded log information is correct. Quality control is very important. The logs in each row are frequently checked to see if they meet the required grade specifications. All bark on logs heading to China require fumigation to meet phytosanitary requirements. Logs stowed under deck in the holds of a vessel are fumigated on board during transit using phosphine, while logs stored on deck must be fumigated on port before shipping. On a typical ship, around 8,000 jazz need to be fumigated on port. Tarpaulins are used to cover rows and methyl bromide gas is pumped in to fumigate the logs. The process of covering and uncovering is very labour intensive. Pruned appearance grade logs are required to be free of sap stain when they reach the customer. Pruned logs are required to be delivered to the port within 3 days of felling and are taken straight to the debark and anti-sap stain plant. Here the bark is removed and anti-sap stain chemical is applied. When it's time to load a vessel, the logs are handed over from the marshalling company to the stevedores. The marshallers deliver the logs by loader into bunks or by truck to ship side for tallying. PFP are the only company at the Port of Tauranga using a trucking system to transport logs to ship side. The stevedores then scan each ticket and do a manual piece count, which gives a very accurate measure of every log loaded onto the ship. After loading, the two companies validate the data by comparing records. Once tallying is complete, wire strops are secured around each load or heave and it's lifted onto the ship. The typical heave size is 20 jazz or 9 heaves per hour. Each crane would load 150 jazz per hour and on average, with 4 cranes operating, a total of 14,000 jazz per day is achieved. Excavators with grapple heads are used to place logs within the ship holds. This improves the stow and maximises the vessel's uplift. Mark-offs using paint and tape ensure that different customers' logs are kept separate. Paint is used to separate each customer's different grades and lengths. When the holds are full, the hatch lids are closed and the deck loading begins. Logs on deck are lashed by the crew to secure them for the voyage. And so another vessel sails to the ports of Asia and to our valued customers, part of the 2.5 million jazz we exported in 2009 from 6 ports across New Zealand. PFP, the company that's a big player in log export. For more about us and how we can help you, please visit our website www.pfpltd.co.nz.